Hi, I'm Joss, founder and CEO of Flexperts, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a for each loop in FlutterFlow. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, and if you ever need help with your app or want some coaching sessions to become a FlutterFlow expert, then check us out at flexperts.dev. Let's dive right in. This was actually the original video I was planning to make today. I got sidetracked with the previous one about the menu, but it's okay because we're going to pick up and actually use that to make this video, which is a little bit more of a, not advanced, nothing in FlutterFlow is advanced, everybody can do everything, but is maybe, not for day one because you won't encounter this problem. So what problem can we solve and what am I going to show you how to do today? The problem that we're going to solve is essentially when you have a list of something. This is the one we built in our previous example. So let's say these were products in a store and you're in an admin mode and you want to mark all of these as, live published products or something. Alternatively, you've got a list of users and you want to delete them. That's essentially a batch edit to each of those documents. So each of those documents you want to go through and you want to change their status to, suspended or something. And you can't really do that natively in FlutterFlow. What you're going to need is essentially often a custom code, but there's actually a way you can do it using the tools just in FlutterFlow, using the FlutterFlow equivalent, if you like, of a for each loop. A for each loop in programming just means you're going through each item in a list and doing the same thing to it, which can be sometimes dynamic things, such as, take their name and make it into all capital letters or something. So you're going through for each of them and doing something. And you can do that in code, definitely. But if you've never written code, that might seem a little overwhelming. So I'm going to show you how to do it using just the basic kind of tools and widgets and actions in FlutterFlow. So let's get started. Since we're already 2 minutes into this video and I haven't done anything yet. So, okay, I'm just going to use this little page that I made for a demo. I'm going to duplicate it though. So we're going to duplicate this page and maybe let's give it a helpful name. Oh, I already did. For each loop. Okay, so let's delete that. Let's delete that and let's rename this page for each loop. And actually choose the name for each loop. Cool. So let's start. What we're going to do is we're going to make an edit button somewhere. Let's make it here so I don't mess up my nice header. Let's make an edit button here, and when that edit button is available, we're then going to show some check boxes, select boxes, radio buttons, something like that, on each of these items. And then once we select them, we're going to have a delete button show up. An edit button here. So, yeah, let's do it that way. And then when we click that one button, we want it to go through and make that change to all of them. Cool. So let's start here. Let's do. So what we're going to do is just to make it look nice, we're going to add 40 units of padding on the top here, and then we're going to add let's add a toggle icon. I normally hate toggle icons, but it's going to be fine for now. Okay, which means I don't need my padding, but okay, whatever. I need my padding here. The toggle icon is 50 pixels. There you go. Now it's centered. Okay, great. So a toggle icon needs to be attached to a value. It can be attached to a Firestore document value, such as is this person active, not active. But it can also be attached to a state variable. So when you have state, you have app state, which is the whole app. You also have component states and local page states. So we're going to call this is edit mode. Okay, and we're going to set an initial value. This is very important. Make sure your page doesn't crash. We're actually going to set this to be required, not nullable, again, because a null error would crash our page. So, if I move my camera thing, confirm. Okay, great. And now we can link this to that page state, is edit mode. So now we can have it be, it's a toggle icon, which by default has, let's make it, I don't know, Let's make it the universal pencil. Oops. So we can have, for when it's, or here, what's this? Okay, let's just use the pencil, I guess. So when it is on, you want some pencil, and when it is off, we'll do an outlined pencil. And maybe we'll do it in a different color to make it more obvious. So that is the least helpful edit button ever. But okay, maybe make this a little bit lighter. Too light. Yeah, this is the thing to be worrying about. Good job, Joss. Great demo. Okay, well, you get the idea. Actually, you know what? Let me make it more obvious. There you go. So when the edit mode is on, that's going to be displayed. So now what we want to do is let's add a radio button here. So I'm going to add a radio button. I don't want any options really. Then I'm going to put this to be expanded. So that let me just move my camera out here. Okay, great. And the initial property of this is going to be second word. Not the best example. Let's do it slightly differently. Let's do a checkbox. Actually, you know what? No, I know what I'm going to do. Okay, so this is for each. Yes. Okay, I know what I'm going to do. Okay, cool. So for those of you who haven't watched the previous video, this page goes and grabs a list of demos, and then these are grabs all the demos. Then these are the filtered versions of that, depending on the category. So what I want to do is I want to create a list. Yes, I want to create a. I'm going to call this is another local state. I'm going to call this selected demos, and we're going to make that a list of document references. And so it's going to be a list, and what the category is demos. Cool. And whenever we're doing something like this, I like to, at the start of the page, the onload actions. So if you select page and then actions, you get these onload. And what we're going to do is we're going to do this update page state, and we're going to update. Oops. Let's try that again. State management, update page state, and the field we want to update is, we're going to do both of them. So this means we're just setting the initial state of our app. So for the list, we just want to reset the value, make sure there's nothing left over from before, and the isEdit mode we'll set to false. Even though we set a default, we're just being extra sure here that whenever we get to the page, this is going to start as false. Okay, great. So now we've got a list of document references that we can now add things to in our list. So what we'll do is we'll put an action on here, and we're going to update the page state. State management, update page state, and we want to update this selected demos, and we want to add to the list the specific item we've selected, demo layout item, and we want to add its document reference. Great. Okay, dokie. So now what's going to happen, so every time I click on this demo, it's going to add it to that list. It won't ever add it twice. It's what's called a set rather than a list, so you can't have duplicates, so that's great. And then just to be a little bit fancy, this does not have a border color. Let's give it a border color like that. which is going to be, you say 1 pixel? There we go. And we're going to set this from a conditional value. So the border color is going to be either, it's going to be a conditional value. And the conditional value, if, sorry for the pauses, I'm constantly have to move my camera. Why don't I just put it over there? That would make more sense. There you go. If this demo's layout item, if its document reference, sorry, start that again. On our page state, we want to know if this is selected, basically. So if our page state, selected demos, list contains this specific demo layout item in the list, the reference, if our selected items list contains that, then in our conditional value, we're going to set the border color to be green. But if not, else, we're just going to set it to, I don't know, white. Probably should be whatever. That's fine. Let's do setting is white. And the default, we're going to set to white. So that should then have no border. So that will now mean that when we click this, it adds this document reference to the list. When it does that, this will change. The border color will change because it is now in the list of selected items contains this specific item, so the border will be green and the other ones won't be. Great. That's step one. So now, what we want to do though is we want to have at the bottom of this page, so at the bottom of this page, let me add a button. And you can't see it because this tab thing is expanded. App bar, button. Oh, it is there. It's just this. Now there's other things in my way. There we go. And let me give this a little bit of padding just to pick it off the floor. And we can make the width 100%, make the height 50. Okay, and the text we're going to have is start loop action. Okay, great. So now we've got a button that can do something. Looks a little bit ugly, but a little bit of padding. Cool. So we want this to run a loop. And this is the kind of cool part. So if we go into the actions, we're going to need the workflow action here. What we want to do is start with an action, and we're going to add a periodic action. And periodic action runs every like second. You can set the interval here. Start action immediately on tap. Okay, great. So now what we want to do is we want to actually make our, so essentially this is the equivalent of just running something again and again. So now what we want to do is we want to know, we're going to have a conditional here, an if then, yes. So I'm going to set up on my state management, you can clearly tell I didn't think this through very well. I'm going to set up what I'm going to call a loop counter, and this is going to be an integer, and the default is going to be 0, not nullable, confirm. And we're going to change our on-page load actions to also make sure that that gets set to 0 on-page load. Okay, great. Now, what we want to do, now that we've done that, is go back to our action buttons. So, we want to now know, should we stop this periodic action, right? That's going to basically be the, let's say false. So here we're going to add a stop periodic action. Stop periodic action. We're going to select the timer there. Okay. So basically, if this condition is true, we want to run something. And basically, when it hits this end, because this is running every second, another one is going to have started here. But when this condition is false, it's going to obviously go this direction and it will stop the entire thing. So what we'll do here is we'll set our condition, so should it keep running, to be a single condition, which is that we're going to look at that loop counter, which is our page state, and is it less than we're going to look at if it's equal to, from variable, the list of selected items, which are the ones we want it to loop through. Those are our page state. Selected items. So this is a list of demos, number of items, right? Default 0, sure. So that's the ones that have the green borders that are selected. We're checking, is the loop counter, the number, equal to the number of items in that list, right? No, that's wrong. Is it less than? Is it less than the number of items in that list? If it's less than the number of items in that list, it means that we will have essentially reached the end of our loop that we want to do. So the first thing we need to do is to increment the loop counter. So we're going to update page state. And we're going to look at the loop counter, and we're going to do increment by 1. So what this means is that every time this thing is running, basically, is it less than, is the total, well, it's going to start at 0, our loop counter, and we've maybe got 5 items in the list. So 0 is less than 5. So what do? We go down this branch, we don't stop this periodic action, and we're going to add 1 to the loop counter. So now the loop counter is 1, and when this, remember, these start every second, these go. And you could make this every 5 seconds, but so on the next one, it's going to come down here, and it's going to compare 1 to 5, keep going, 2 to 5, keep going, 3 to 5, 4 to 5, 5 to 5. Okay, stop. We're done with the loop. And now what I can do is I can put anything I want to happen to those items we're looping through. So in this case, let's say we're going to update the document. And now what we want to do, which item are we wanting to update? Well, we want to update the demos document because we're obviously not in our list at this point. This button is at the bottom of the list. So we need to find the right demo document to update. So what we're going to do is we're going to go demos documents, and we're going to filter them to get the right one. And the filter that we're going to do is based on a single condition where the item in the list, meaning of all the demos documents, get document property, the reference, is equal to the, from variable, selected demos documents, the ones that we actually want to edit. So that's page state, selected demos. Actually, we don't even need to do this. Let me make that simpler. Start again here. So what do we want? Where are we going to get our document reference? We're going to get our document reference from the selected demos. Which one? Well, we can get the item at the index because we know where we are in the loop, right? Remember, FlutterFlow list, general list, the first item is 0, not 1, the index. It goes, so if you got a 3-item list, it goes 0, 1, 2. 2 would be the last item in a 3-item list. 0, 1, 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the specific index, and we're going to take the whatever the loop counter is. And what that means is that I need to actually put this first. So the loop counter will go up to 1 after I've done this. So it will start at 0, which is less than 5, let's say. And that means it then goes and updates the document at the position 0. And then it updates the loop counter to 1. The next action comes down because these are running every second. And if 1 is less than 5, I'm going to update since the loop counter is now 1, I'm going to update the first item. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change some property. Let's say the category. And we want to add to the set for each of them. We want to make them all, live. This is a new category we want to add to all of them called live. And so there we go. This will now, when it hits the fifth item comes through, update the loop counter from 4 to 5. Once the 5, boom, 5 is not less than the number of list items, this periodic action will stop, and we'll add a snack bar just to show that. Loop action complete. And we'll make this 16. And then background color, yeah, sure, green, and font color white. 4 seconds. Hide to your snack bars. Now there is a new actual option in FlutterFlow, which is to, doesn't seem to have it here, to run actions in bulk. But there we go. And by the way, you can store these as action blocks, so you could actually make an action block from your save action blocks from the menu, which is quite cool. I've never actually done this before. Create action blocks to easy. Loop action. I'm guessing these work like templates. I'm not really sure. So if you need to use it on multiple pages. Oh, okay. That's very cool. So I guess I would just copy and paste this. Here. That's very cool. So then can I access that? Ah, I can add an action block. That makes it even easier. Anyway, but let's not confuse things. That was all superfluous. I should probably cut it from this video. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. If you have any more suggestions about things that you'd like me to do, things that you'd like to see, just let me know. And yeah, if you ever need any help with your app, please like, subscribe, and you can check us out at flexperts.dev. See you next time.